Good evening, everybody. Welcome back. Part 4 of Finding Your Path, Personal Exploration of Mesilat Yesharim, the Path of the Just by Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto. We finished off last week talking about how the entire world, what we call Jewish ecology, that this world is a resource, a bit like, if you want, like a sort of an atom. The atom is capable of lighting a city or destroying a city. So this world is a facility, is a resource. Hashem made this world full of many beautiful things, and they're all here for us to be able to use in our service of Hashem. And the physical world is a beautiful place. As we're going to see in a second, that Hashem told Adam HaRishon, the first man, he took him around Gan Eden. He said, look at my world, what a beautiful place I made here. Be careful not to destroy it. So how does a person destroy it? A person destroys chas v'chalila the world when he lets the world use him instead of him using the world. What do I mean? The Torah is, one of the understandings of the word Torah is horot, instructions. It's the instruction book on a very basic level. On a very simplistic level. It's the instruction manual for people who live in the world by the person, if we call the person, by Hashem who created the world and therefore understands what the purpose of the world is. Nobody can write an instruction manual better than the manufacturer of that particular car. Somebody builds a car, he knows how the car works, he knows which bit is for what and what it isn't for. But a person comes into this world and he doesn't understand that this world is really a resource. As we said before, it's a factory which is supposed to produce a product. And he becomes so enamored and obsessed with the world and everything that is in this world, and he becomes diverted and uses this world as an end in itself. This is the way the world is destroyed. Because the nature of a person is, as we said before in previous chapters, a person is part angel and part animal. And the animal part of a person can take over, and his desires, the lower part of a person, if not guided, it's like when the monkey gets behind the seat of the car. If you let the monkey get behind the seat of the car, then oy vavoy. The man has to be behind the seat of the car, the seichel, the intellect. And even the intellect of a person is not foolproof, because the intellect, unless it has Torah and mitzvahs, will go astray. You see many, many brilliant Jews. It's interesting, all our enemies, of all the insults they throw at us, the one they don't say is that we're stupid. Nobody says the Jews are stupid. And you see what happens when a Jew who doesn't have Torah, he'll still have his brilliance, he'll still have this, as Rav Nata Shiller, should be well says, Jew has an extra set of pistons. Now that can go for the good or the bad. A person can become a Moshe Rabbeinu, or a person can become a Karl Marx and create a philosophy which has killed millions and millions of people, tens of millions of people in the hands of someone like Stalin. He could become a great Torah scholar, or he'll still be brilliant, but his brilliance, if not controlled, directed, funneled by the instructions of the Torah, will inevitably produce something which is destructive. So, as we've seen in previous chapters, that Hashem, the world itself, is very happy when it's used in the correct way. We gave the example last week of this table, and this table is probably identical to the same table that came out of the same factory in Rishon LeZion. One of the table ended up in some gambling club in Tel Aviv or some night bar. And this table sat here where rabbis are teaching Torah, chavrusas are learning Tosfos. Now they look like the same table. Excuse me. They look like the same table, but they're not. And as we said last week, this is actually a physical reality. The physical world becomes elevated, or it becomes polluted by the actions of man, and of course mostly by the Jewish people, because there's no privilege without responsibility. The Jewish people have been privileged to be Hashem's chosen people. We're supposed to be a light to the goyim and or lagola, and therefore we have much more power, much more ability to be able to elevate the world, or God forbid the reverse. So this table looks the same as this table that's somewhere in Tel Aviv in a nightclub, but it's not. The physical table itself is different. This physical table has had an aliyah, as the Mesilat Yesharim says. It's a great Ilui Godel the Kol Abrios, it's a great elevation for everything in the creation when it's used by an Odom HaSholem, the perfected man in his kedusha, and that's why he brought the medrash about the Or Haganuz, the hidden light, the light that Hashem created at the beginning of creation was this supernal light. That was the Ihi Or right at the beginning of the Torah. As we said, that's not the sun and the moon. Sun and the moon didn't appear to the third day. So there was this supernal light that no longer we see because it was hidden away. It's called the Haganuz. Hidden. Haganuz means put away, sequestered. Why was it put away? Because Hashem didn't want the Rishoyim to have the power to be able to use this light. As we said, it was a very powerful light. And why was it powerful? Not because it said you can see from one end of the world to the other. It doesn't mean just it was like, super duper bright and billions of watts. It means that you could see cause and effect. You could see why things happened. Now that's a very powerful thing. If you can analyze why one thing causes something else, in the hands of the wrong people, that's something which is extremely destructive. Hashem hid it away. That's what it's called the Or Haganuz. And it was hidden away. And the light is the Or Samach. And that's where the Or Samech comes from, Or Yismach. The light will be happy. Why? Because it understood it was hidden. And the Rishoyim, evil people, would not have access to it until the right time and place where the Tzaddikim will have that light. Similarly, we saw that the stones that Yaakov Avinu gathered around his head when he saw the dream of the ladder. And the Pasuk says in one Pasuk, Anavim, stones. Avanim, stones. And another Pasuk says Evan, stone, singular. So they start off as stones, plural, and they become one stone, a few psukim later. And Chazal teaches, the Medrash says that what happened was that basically the stones were so keen, so desirous to be the one, alai, on me, the tzaddik should place his head. So they, so to speak, they had this power of wanting to be the stone on which the tzaddik laid his head. They fused together. So again, why? Because they understood that it's a great elevation for the entire world physically when it's used in the correct way. That's where we got up to last week. Okay, so, and as we said right at the beginning, Hinei al Ika, I'm starting with the paragraph, Hinei al Ika Hazer, this is in Perik Aleph. So, Hinei al Ika Hazer, on this general principle, Heirunu Zichron Levrocha, our rabbis have pointed out, have indicated in the Medrash Koheles, Sha'omru, it says over there, and Zel Hashonim, this is a quote, Re'ei es ma'aseh ha'elokim. That's the Pasuk in Koheles. See the actions, of God. And the Medrash says, B'shah shebara HaKadosh Baruch Hu, es Adam Harishon, when Hashem created the first man, Adam, Notolo v'hechziroi al kol ilone Gan Eden v'omeloi. He took him around and showed him all of the trees in Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, and he said to him, Re'ei ma'asai, see my actions, see my works. Kama no'im, how pleasant, umshubochim, and praiseworthy, hein, they are. V'chol ma shebarosi, and everything that I created, bishvilcha barosi, I created it for you. Everything, as we said before, is here in the world to serve man ultimately. We asked the question last week, I was some kind of salamander deep in the Amazon basin. How's that supposed to help man? And we said that, you're right, I don't know. But somewhere in that vast jigsaw puzzle, which is called the universe, the creation, everything has a way of being in some way used for the Odom HaSholem, to find perfection, to use this world as a tool in order to come close to Hashem. So Hashem says to Adam Harishon in this Medrash, Ten daitecha, pay attention, shelo tekalkel, that you do not destroy, ruin, v'tachriv, and destroy es olami, my world. Next paragraph. Now he's going to move into a summation, summary. Klolo shel dova, the general principle of what we've been speaking about. Ha'adam lo nivra ba'avor matzava b'olam hazeh. Man is not creation for his station in this world. Ela ba'avor matzava b'olam bo. Rather of his station in the world to come. Ela shematzava b'olam hazeh. His situation, his station in this world. Hu emtzoi, that is the means. Lematzava b'olam ba, for his station in the world to come. Shehu tachliso, which is its purpose. As we've said on many times before, a person comes in this world, he's going to say, and thinks this is what it's all about, he's going to be sorely disappointed. For many reasons we'll see in a moment. But the main thing is that a person is not created for this world. This world is, we're going to see, is vital, if we can use the word. It's vital in as much as that's the only way that you can get to Olam Haba, but it's not of the essence. It's not what the point of things are. The point of things is Olam Haba, because as we said before, that's the place where a person will have the hana of being close to Hashem. And as we said, he's put in this world first of all so he can earn through his own efforts that closeness, and therefore, how do you say, what's the word in English? Own those results. He's not getting it as a free handout. It becomes more part of him to the extent that he earned it by working for it, by being in this world of challenge. He's going to say all this. Okay. Therefore, you'll find many sayings of our sages, all with the same theme, which is to a place and time of preparation, and the world to come, as a place of rest, and the consumption of that which is already prepared. Please stop me if you have questions. And now he's going to bring a few of these Ma'amrei Chazal, these sayings of our sages. That's what Chazal teach when they say, Ha'olam hazeh doimeh leproizdo. This world is similar to a prosdo, could be a corridor. It's interesting, prosdor and corridor have the same ending. Or it can be translated as a vestibule or an antechamber. It's the same idea. The antechamber, the prosdor, the corridor, the vestibule have one purpose and one purpose only, which is to get you into the palace. You can't get into the palace any other way. There are no other doors. There's no other way in. That's why this world is vital. But if you mistake the vestibule for the palace, you made a big mistake. Another idea, now talking in terms of time as opposed to place. Today to do the mitzvahs, and tomorrow to receive their reward. This is not a place where a person receives the real reward. Now we spoke right at the beginning, I'm not going to go into it again now, but maybe we will in future times talk about this idea, that in essence, schar mitzvah, the reward for a mitzvah is the mitzvah. And we said on a simplistic level, that means if you do a mitzvah, you get rewarded by the opportunity to do another mitzvah. But if you remember, those of you who are here, the idea is that schar mitzvah, that really the reward to the mitzvah is the mitzvah itself. A person does in this world all of these actions, which are the mitzvahs, but he doesn't really understand them. As we said, this is a world, as compared in the beginning of the Torah, to a tree, an eitz oseh pri, a tree which produces fruit. The original command to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to the land, was to bring forth an eitz pri oseh pri, where Chazal teaches the taste of the tree was the taste of the fruit. They were identical. What does it mean the taste of the tree is the same as the fruit? It means that the action, the reward is in the action itself. The payoff of the action is actually felt at the same time, that the reward is the doing. Now, with Adam HaRishon, when Adam HaRishon sinned, so the world was cursed, and we live in a world now which is only an eitz oseh pri, where we perceive the action and the reward to be totally separate, but they're not. Really, and that's why when we put on tefillin in the morning, I don't know about you, but if one really understood what that was, a person would be just delirious with joy. Now, true, we put on tefillin, and hopefully once in a while we feel, wow, this is, I'm doing something good, but it's an intellectual thing. It's not a visceral pleasure. It's not the schar of the mitzvah. The schar of the mitzvah will be experienced when we get to Olam Haba, because Olam Haba really will be a rerun of Olam Hazeh, but on a level of revelation where all of the actions that we did, we will now experience and enjoy them in the way that they really were. Right now they're hidden from us. The reward is hidden. Schar mitzvah. The schar of the mitzvah, the reward of the mitzvah is the mitzvah, but the enjoyment of that mitzvah in Olam Haba, where everything is revealed, that is the true place of where we will have this menucha. And the reward for the mitzvah, which, as we said before, is really the mitzvah experienced as it really is, in its pnimius, in its inside. And he brings another chazal. So again, Olam Hazeh is a place of work, Olam Haba is a place to receive the reward. Another chazal says, Mi shetorach be'erev Shabbos yochol b'Shabbos. It's actually a song kids sing. Mi shetorach be'erev Shabbos. The one who works on Erev Shabbos, he'll have, as they say, what to eat on Shabbos. If you don't cook on Erev Shabbos, oy vavoy, what are you going to eat? You can't cook on Shabbos. So that's the same idea, that's the same mashal, the same concept. This world is like Erev Shabbos. This world is like Friday. And when you're going to enjoy all of the food that you cooked on Friday on Shabbos. But if you don't cook on Friday, you're not going to have anything. Another example, Olam Hazeh, is Doma Liyabasha. This world is like the dry land. V'olam haba liyam. The world to come is like a sea. Person sets out on a sea journey and he doesn't stock himself up with provisions. He gets up into the middle of the ocean. That's it. Same idea. This world is to prepare, and the world to come is where that experience of closest to Hashem, the schar, the reward, the pleasure are experienced. And there are many, many other chazalim which have the same idea. Yes?
The question is, so basically if we treat this world as a vestibule or like as a preparation for the next world, there are like multiple cases that might be like, for comparison, for example, babies that die without able to perform any single mitzvah, or I don't know, like some people that were reduced in the opportunity to perform mitzvah, or their life was cut short due to some events, like or some killer and his merit prevented it. Like how would that
So the question I'll just repeat it, I'm not sure the microphone picked it up. The question is that you see many times, for example, God forbid, babies come into this world, live a very brief time. What does that mean? They have no olam haba, or people's lives are cut short. Hashem Yirachim. So one of the answers is, and there are other answers, but I think maybe that we understand that Judaism believes in reincarnation, Gilgulim. And I think the Vilna Gaon says in his generation, everybody, kimat everyone who's now alive is a Gilgul, is a reincarnation of somebody who existed before. And we're sent back to this world to fix some particular thing. It's a merit that you come back down here because it means that you're so to speak, given a second chance to fix something that you didn't fix in a previous incarnation. So it could be that a little baby comes into this world for a brief period of time in order to fix that particular thing that as that neshama needed to fix, and then it can leave the world. So it's not the whole picture. So that's, I think, one answer we could say. Okay. Now, let's go on. V'tireh, be'emes shekava lo yuchol shum bal seichel la'amin shetachlis b'iraseh ha'odam hu l'matzav ha'lamazeh. Now he's going to talk about this from an intellectual point of view, a logical point of view, a philosophical point of view. If you look in truth, it's not possible that any Baal Seichel, any intelligent person, should believe that the purpose of the creation of man was for his station in this world. It's very difficult to say that man was created to just for this world. Why? Because what is a person's life in this world? Oh, mihu shesamech v'shalev mamash b'olam hazeh. Who really is happy, completely happy and tranquil in this world? Yemei shanosena behem shivim shonim. The days of our lives are 70 years. V'im bigvuro shmonim shona. If by reason of strength they're 80 years. Posuk in Tehillim, Psalms. V'rabam, and their breadth, omal v'oven, is toil and trouble. Bekama minei tzar, with how many problems, pain, v'chaloim, and sicknesses, umochavim, umachovim, and pains in the body, physical pains, emotional pains, v'trodos, and problems. If you look at people's lives, everybody's life, everybody has his problems. Everybody has problems, Rahman Allah, health problems, money problems, shalom bayis problems, God forbid, all kinds of problems, psychological problems. It would be very difficult to say that Hashem, who wants to do good to man and created man for that purpose, that's the background here. Man was created, as we said before, as that entity to which Hashem wants to give his goodness by virtue of the fact that he's the ultimate goodness. And he wants to give the higher form of giving, as we said before, is the highest form of good is a good which is dynamic, which gives. Man was created to be the recipient of that goodness. So it's very difficult to say that this is the goodness that Hashem intended for us, this world, when you see that so many things happen, wars, right? Very difficult to say that. And as you pointed out before, tragedies, God forbid. And all of that, after these 70 or 80 years of problems and pains and aches and arguments and fights and bloodshed, death. Echad minei elef lo yimotzei sherabim ho'olam hazeh hanois v'shalva amitis. Not 1 in 1,000 people finds that this world will extend for him, will provide for him the pleasures and the true pleasure and tranquility. V'gamhu, and even if you'll find that 1 person in 1,000 who really can say, everything was gavaldik from the moment I was born to everything's been absolutely smooth sailing. Even if you find such a person, by the time he gets to 100, he'll already have passed away and be nullified from the world. That's it. And that's Hashem created us for that. That's this good that He wants to give us. Not only that, if you want to tell me that man's creation was for this world, that's what he was created for, it would not have been necessary for there to have been breathed into man, right? Hashem breathed into his nose a soul so elevated, so important. The soul is something so elevated, so lofty. The soul of a human being, of a Jew, is higher than that of the angels. So if this world is all there is, then why bother? Why put breathe into man this lofty, elevated soul? If that's all this world is just about, having good fun and a faster sports car and, a nicer holiday. All the more so, seeing as the soul itself finds zero pleasure in this world. The neshama is not interested in going to the cinema. The neshama is not interested in going out for a steak dinner. He's not interested in it at all. And this is what Chazal taught us in the Medrash in Koheles, and this is Lashonam V'gam Hanefesh Lo Timole. This is a pasuk from Koheles. V'gam Hanefesh, also the soul will not be filled. Timole. The soul does not like this world. And he brings a mashal here. I'll embellish the mashal, the parable a little bit. Once upon a time there was this country bumpkin who found his way up to the capital city. And as he's walking past the palace, he's on a tourist trip, he sees the king in the royal swimming pool, and he suddenly realizes the king can't swim, and the king's drowning. And he leaps over the fence, and he rescues the king, and the king says, wow, I'm so grateful to you, you can have anything you want. You saved my life. So this country bumpkin says, fine, I'll have your daughter. I want to marry your daughter. So, what can the king do? He promised anything he wanted. So they have this huge royal wedding. And of course, time comes after the festivities and the Sheva Brachas that they have to make their way back to this peasant's lodging. And so, they pile up on this sort of ox cart, and they set off across the wild, I can get this picture of this sort of frozen steppe somewhere out there in Tajikistan or Siberia or somewhere. And they're traveling for days and days and days, and this poor princess is sitting on this ox cart. And finally they get to this deserted hovel in the middle of absolutely nowhere. And he jumps down off the ox cart with tremendous aplomb and pride, indicates to his new bride their new bridal apartment. Ta-da! So she takes one look at this hovel and she collapses in tears. So he looks at her. can't really understand what's the problem. And he says, we haven't really eaten properly for the last few days, so I'm going to rustle up some really delicious grub. So he goes inside and he cooks up the most delicious food that he can possibly conceive of, blood sausage and boiled potato. And he puts it on the table and he goes, ta-da! And the princess takes one look at this and she collapses even more tears. He really doesn't know what's wrong with him. And then he sees that in the corner of this hovel, this hut, excuse me, there's a hole in the roof where the water is now cascading in. So he jumps up onto the roof and with his, Mr. Fix-It, he goes over to the corner and he gathers together some unspeakable concoction of whatever's been lying around on the roof. And he manages to do this pretty good fixing job, comes down, ta-da! Tears, more tears, more tears. The princess is inconsolable. That's the mashal, that's the parable. The princess is the soul, and the peasant is the body. And the princess is not happy in this world. And the more the body tries to give to the soul, the more the pauper tries to give to the princess, it'll never be more to her than blood sausage and boiled potato, because she's dined in the palace on luxury cuisine that this peasant has no idea about. So similarly, the neshama comes from a place so high and elevated, the body has no idea. But the body understands, right? The neshama, he understands the soul inside him is not happy. So what does he do? He wants to give a faster sports car. He wants to give a better meal, whatever it is. And of course, the more he gives, the more physicality the body gives to the neshama, the more disgusted she is by it, and the more unhappy she is. That's the moshel, he says. I'll read it now. What's it similar to ironi? To a ironi, like a suburban person, I called him country bumpkin. She Nasa Bas Melech, who married the queen, a princess. Im Yovila, if he would bring her, Kol Ma Sheba Olam, everything in the world, Eina Chashuvim La Klum. It's not worth anything to her. Shehi Bas Melech, because she is the daughter of the king. Kach Hanefesh, similarly as the soul. Ilu Hevesela Kol Ma'adane Olam, were you to bring her all of the delicacies of the world, Eino Klumla. It's not going to be anything to her. Lama, Shehi Mena Elyonim. The neshama comes from the highest reaches of creation. Similarly, our sages teach us, Al Korcha Ato Notzah. Against your will, you were created. V'al Korcha Ato Nolad. And against your will, you were born. Meaning what? The neshama doesn't want to come down here. The neshama is brought down into this world against her will. Ki ein neshama oheves olam hazeh. Klal. The neshama does not like this dark, dank world whatsoever. Ela adarabba mo'esis boy. She's disgusted by it. The neshama is disgusted by this world. Im kein vaday lo haya bayre habayris barach baria shetachlis shuhu neged chuka v'nimos mimeno. So where's he getting with this? It's not logical to say. For sure, Hashem would never have created an entity, the neshama, with whose purpose is something totally against its nature. It doesn't make sense to say that Hashem would create the neshama from such a high level. First of all, number one, it would be unnecessary. And now he's going further. Not only is it unnecessary for man, if all our creation is for Olam Hazeh to have such an elevated soul, but also it's that why would Hashem force the neshama who's disgusted by this world to come into this world? Doesn't make sense. Ela brioso shela odam lamatzav olam abohi. For these two reasons, we have to say that it must be that a man was created for olam haba. That is his true tachlis, his true purpose, his true situation and station. And the reason he's given the neshama, and the reason why the neshama is put into his into the body. Because you say, well, why send the neshama down here at all? Ki lo rui la'avoid, because it's worth, it's kedai, it's worth it for the body to work to elevate the neshama. I'm going to speak about this in a second. Through this coming down into this world, the neshama coming down into this world and doing the mitzvahs, because the mitzvahs only exist in this world. And that's the only way we can come, that's the way Hashem set it up. The only way we can get close to Hashem is to do the mitzvahs, and the mitzvahs have to be done in this world because they're physical, because there have to be the temptations not to do the mitzvahs. We have to choose, we have to work, and by doing that, therefore we elevate the neshama. And therefore, lekabel schar b'makom uzmanoi, because then the neshama will receive its reward in the correct time and place. Shelo yeh davar nimos el nishmoso ka'olam hazeh, because then when a person uses this world in the correct way, so the neshama, far from being disgusted by this world, when it understands that this world is being used to elevate it, ela adarabah, rather the reverse. Ne'ahav, it's beloved. This world is beloved. V'ne'achmod mimeno, and she is happy to be in this world. V'zeh poshet, because why? Because the neshama understands that the true the elevation of the neshama can't be elevated when it's in the world of the neshamas. It's static. The only way it can be elevated is to come down into this world of challenge, and be elevated by us doing our job properly and using everything in this world, the physical world, to elevate the neshama. And the neshama then is happy because it understands it's being elevated in this world. And that's what makes a person happy. A person instinctively understands when he's doing a mitzvah, when he's doing the right thing, when he's davening. I'm not going to say a person feels this all the time. Sometimes a person gets knocked off the track. But we've all had moments. Anybody who's ever davened at least once well in his life understands what I'm talking about. Anybody who understands when he does a chesed, he has a feeling of satisfaction which is much greater than any physical pleasure can ever be. More satisfying, more lasting, more real. Because the neshama is happy with the fact that it's being used, that the body is now being used in the proper way. And she is benefiting from that. And of course, as the Ramchal says, that the neshama, as well as going to Olam Haba, the guf also has to go to Olam Haba. And that's why there has to be the resurrection of the dead, physical resurrection, because it's seeing as the guf, the body, was a partner in this process of the elevation of the neshama, it's only fair that the body should also receive its reward. Sure.
If given this life was created for us to perform the mitzvah, then it could be as an assumption that God should have made it easy to make a mitzvah. But for example, like Bam Shem Tov with his story, like how he was getting to Israel, is like he had all the obstacles on his way to perform the mitzvah. Why it wasn't it easy? Okay, once he decided, he go himself. I understand it might be hard to decide, but once he decided, well, should like kind of like open and make him perform the mitzvah.
So the question is that if Hashem wants us to do the mitzvahs, and once a person decides to do the mitzvah, so why sometimes is the performance of the mitzvah
so hard?
So hard. So Chazal teaches lefum tza agra. According to I guess in English it comes out like no pain, no gain. But it's not quite like that. It's lefum tza, according to the pain, agra is the reward. This He's going to talk about this in this next paragraph, which I think we'll leave till next week. This is a world of challenge. It's clear that we can understand. Maybe talking about no pain, no gain. Anybody understands that if he goes to a gym and he's capable of pumping, I don't know, what can people do? I don't really know what these things. Well, how much they?
Or like a shoulder press.
Yeah, shoulder. How much?
20 kilos.
20 kilos, right? He can do 20 kilos. So if he goes in, I'm saying, but if he goes into the gym and he pushes 20 kilos, he's not going to get anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Okay, he may stay reasonable, but how's he going to build muscle? 25 kilos, 30 kilos, and he's got to keep upping the ante all the time, because the way the body grows is through challenge. is through making it a little bit more difficult. So that's the same mashal with the neshama. A person spiritually has to keep, so to speak, upping the ante. Rav Dessler has a beautiful idea called the point of Bechira, Nakudata Bechira, which I don't know if you've heard of. So this idea is that that every person all the time is moving up in his level of spirituality. When a person, let's say, first comes to into Or Sameach, so he probably looks at the light switch half of Shabbos going, I want to turn that light on. Or if he smokes cigarettes, which of course he shouldn't, people don't smoke anymore, Baruch Hashem. But back in the day when people smoked cigarettes, he was probably looking at that packet of cigarettes. Now, let's say after a year in Or Sameach, or maybe less, hopefully, that doesn't bother him anymore. Okay, what's going to bother him maybe is that, I don't know, he's going to be more, that he finds it very difficult not to speak Lashon Hara. In other words, a person's challenge is constantly inching up together with his physical status, spiritual status. The higher a person climbs on the spiritual ladder, concomitantly Hashem notches up, so to speak, the weights, right, on the bench press. Why? Because a person in this world is supposed to be, and we're going to see this next week, we're going to finish now, but a person in this world is supposed to be in a situation of challenge. That is one of the things we're supposed to be doing in this world. There are three things he's going to say next week. We'll just give a sneak preview. That Mesilat Yesharim is going to say that a person is in this world to do three things. La'avodas Hashem, la'asos hamitzvos, v'la'amod b'nesoyin. So, La'avodas Hashem, I think, probably means the avoda, which in the Beis Hamikdash we don't have that anymore. What's the avoda now? Tefillah. It's to daven. Why? Because that is the way a person is in contact with Hashem. To do the mitzvahs, that's self-explanatory. V'la'amod b'nesoyin, and to stand up to nisoyin, to grow. To stand, when a person is amod b'nisoyin, when he stands in the nisoyin, he grows from it. And then nisoyin really comes out from this, that if those are the three things that a person's in this world for, then every single thing in this world is a nisoyin, greater or lesser. Where to look, what to say, what to eat, what not to eat, what time to get up, what time to go to bed, what to think, what to look at. Person all the time has to be understanding that I'm in a situation of challenge and I can grow from the situation, or God forbid, I can be knocked down by it. Everything is in the soil. The Balei Musa say that a person, an oni, a poor person, comes around to collect tzedakah during davening, and he puts in his hand in his pocket, and he wants to give him a shekel, and he pulls out a half a shekel. That's also in the soil. Even the smallest things which don't go right are nisyonot, are things which are supposed to challenge you in one way or another. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to say that there's some challenges that break people, like that they impose on themselves and they break them. For example, like stop smoking the cigarettes. Some people do it radically, and then they fail, and they smoke even more. Or like Shabbos keeping, they start immediately with Shomer Shabbat, they fail, and they never come back to this topic ever again.
So this is just come to you in a second. So this is a problem which I think sometimes happens when people become religious, and it's called in Yiddish chapping malachim, which means grabbing onto malachim. You want to grab onto the angel, and there are no how do you say there are no jet propulsion. There are no rockets to the sky. Everything is incremental, one step at a time. And as you say, it's very dangerous when a person tries to jump for the moon. He can end up on his face. So this is why we say, Kaneh lecha chaver, acquire yourself a friend, v'aseh lecha rav. You need a rabbi and a friend who can tell you exactly where you're holding, and to tell you what's the next step, what should you be doing. And if a person, it's like in the gym, a person goes and pulls out, 300 kilos, and he's going to hurt himself if he manages to do anything. But the only way in physical life, in spiritual life, in anything in life, the only thing is slow, incremental improvement, but it has to be constant. And maybe we'll talk about that next week as well. There's an idea in Musa, in spiritual improvement, that things only stick if they're done all the time and if they're small. Yeah.
Just coming back to the building muscle example, there's a phrase in that world that, if you want to build muscle effectively, you need to stimulate, not annihilate. And so
Stimulate, not
so
annihilate.
sometimes it's important how you lift the weights, not what weights you lift. So
Right.
you can lift 20 kilos and you can do it for a year and still get very good results if you lift it a certain way. How you lift can then cause improvements, as opposed to trying to always add more. You can get more from what you've got already. So that would be the intention with putting on tefillin, not just throwing them on. There's spiritual gains to be had from the how.
Right, in the kavanah, in the intention, and the thought, and the preparation. Absolutely. Okay,
Thank
all
you
the
very
best.
much.
Take care.